I decided to utilize a hydroponic system as part of my project. I did this because I've been interested in hydroponics for a while, but the idea kind of further got solidified when I started researching some of the problems surrounding the food industry and such, and I saw kind of all the positives that had to go around hydroponics, such as being able to grow anywhere and being able to grow healthier food. The main problem I wanted to address with my hydroponic system was food deserts. It kind of stuck with me when I was researching that like 23.5 million people worldwide uh, do not have easy access to healthy and affordable food. And I thought that would be kind of a perfect problem to solve with this invention. One thing I discovered when I was exploring hydroponic systems was I discovered vertical farming, and that was really interesting to me. It's essentially where you stack hydroponic systems on top of each other so that you can produce more food in a smaller footprint. But anyway, that led me to dive into it more, and I discovered a local company supplying restaurants with food, but they were growing using a vertical farming method, and I was able to tour the facilities, and that was very interesting, and that certainly helped shape my invention. Um, One thing I did notice, though, however, was it seemed like all the vertical farming, they were all being grown in like essentially like plant factories where it's just like huge facilities churning out all these plants. But when I looked into like smaller systems, there really wasn't anything for vertical farming on a smaller scale. And I thought that was interesting because they do have some home hydroponic systems available, but they all don't really have the capacity to grow more than a few plants. So they're more of just like a hobby system essentially. But this led me to the idea to create kind of blend the commercial aspect of it where you can produce lots of food, but also the home aspect of it, of the home systems where they don't take lots of space. So that led me to create mine where it's very, very small space, but can actually produce a fair amount of food. The first system that I designed was based out of a shipping container because I thought that that would allow it to be ultra portable and be able to ship all over the world. As you can see in the picture, I designed the top to have solar panels, and I designed the trays of the plants to roll out for easy access. This was the final design that I came up with. It has optional solar panels on top, or as an alternative, you can stack as many systems as you want on top, similar to like how a Lego would stack. Another thing about this system is it utilizes scissor lifts to make it ultra portable because the whole system can pack down when not in use. This is an adaptation of the final design, and this is one that I actually ended up building. It is not meant to be the exact same as the final design, however, it is meant to be used as a prototype and to prove that the final design works. This is my prototype system. This is the air pump that's running to help get air to the roots, and this is the air stone underneath providing that. These are all my seed pods. These are the commercially available ones, and these are the ones that I rigged up myself. Of course, this right there, that's all the frame that I built myself. And then these are actually, it's foam board covered in duct tape to waterproof it. And these are just, of course, LED shop lights. That's essentially the system. I'll explain this to you. This is the hydroton. This sits in the net cups, as you can see. The net cups are slightly under the water, and the slits in them allow the roots to go through in order to soak up water. Well, actually the nutrient solution. It's not water underneath, it's the nutrient solution. And that's essentially the gist of my system. One thing that I forgot to mention about my system is it currently has 12 pods, but has the potential to accommodate up to 30 or 40. As you can see, there's extra room. I chose to do 12 pods at first just to get used to my system, but I plan to continue to scale up in the future. Due to the timely nature of growing plants, I was not able to fully test out my system, but I do plan to in the future. Some things I'm currently testing out are growing plants using cotton balls as an alternative to rock wool, which is the standard growing medium. I'm also testing out using commercially available seed pods in my system. And lastly, I tried using transplanting soil plants to my system. However, this did not work because the soil plants I grew in a small container, and the bottom was not big enough for the roots to fully develop, so the plants ended up being weak and were falling over inside of my system. A couple things that I tested that I did not mention was I tested effective ways to soak the hydrogen to get it to the pH level that I wanted. I also had to test whether I could grow seeds directly into the hydrogen, and I tested what material I could use for the top. I eventually decided, as you can see, I decided to use foam board covered in duct tape to waterproof it. And I also tested ways to measure the water level inside. I eventually decided on using a little stick to dip it with a marked water level. Two things that I plan to test out in the future is I plan to test out using rock wool instead of these cotton balls, because rock wool is kind of the standard in terms of hydroponic growing medium. Another thing I plan to test out is I plan to test out different mixtures of plant food to see what works best for my system. The thing I tweaked on my invention was when I was designing, I didn't take into account how the system would balance. So when I built the frame, I realized that it wasn't sturdy enough to support everything. So I had to add 2 legs in order to help support it. There's also a couple tweaks that I made to the system that I forgot to mention. One tweak is this thicker plywood in the center. After looking at the system, I decided that the thin plywood like I have up here would not be suitable to carry so much weight. So I exchanged it for thicker plywood. Another tweak that I made is I originally intended just to use foam board for this top layer. But after testing it out, I decided I wanted to try out a different system because I didn't know how well it would react to the water. After that, I ended up duct taping the foam board, and that's what I have right now. Another tweak that I made was I had to design my whole thing around the thinner window boxes. I originally planned to have the system be much wider, but since the only window boxes I could find were this thin, I changed my design for the system around those. One tweak that I plan to make in the future is I plan to rise up this thing so that I can accommodate larger plants in the system. My invention helps improve access to healthy food for everyone, everywhere, every day, in more ways than one. One way it does this is for use in food deserts, where 23.5 million people struggle to get healthy food at an affordable cost. It helps combat this by allowing those people to grow their very own food in their own homes using my system. Another way it helps improve access to healthy food for everyone, everywhere, every day is by combating climate change. Climate change every year removes more and more farmland, and this helps prevent this. Did you know that on average, produce travels 1,500 miles just to get to your local grocery store? Another way it helps improve access to healthy food everywhere, every day, is helping farmers struck by natural disasters that could potentially wipe out their crops. It minimizes this disruption because farmers can use my system to start seeds so that if their crops get wiped out, they can have seeds ready to go and plant right after. This helps minimize the impact of natural disasters on the food supply chain. What sets my invention apart is the ability to distribute the systems anywhere, or, if chosen, grow them all in one place. It gives you more options than just growing them all in one place and distributing them. It helps distribute the systems to the people that need the food themselves. Another convenient thing about my invention is that you can pick the number of plants you want to grow, essentially, because you can pick the number of systems you want stacked on top of each other. Another positive to my invention is its ability to grow in small spaces. This is important because even if you have a small house or something, you could grow your own food indoors all year long. And this is important to people in food deserts because obviously you need to be able to grow food all year long.